Every man has felt it. That moment when you see a woman who stirs something deep inside you, but instead of confidence, what floods your body is hesitation, second-guessing, and self-doubt. Your mouth goes dry, your mind runs wild. You shrink instead of stepping forward. And yet there are men who walk into the same moment with zero fear. They don't chase, they don't impress, they command. What's the difference? It's not looks, not money, not even words. It's psychological gravity. A presence so rooted, so unfazed, that it forces others to feel it. And this kind of confidence, Machiavelli would tell you, it's not an accident, it's a weapon. The false confidence most men rely on. Let's make one thing clear. Most men walk around wearing borrowed confidence. They try to appear bold by flexing achievements, telling stories, showing off status. But deep down, it's all scaffolding. An insecure man hiding behind effort. True confidence doesn't try to convince anyone. It simply exists. That's why the man who speaks less can often say more. The man who doesn't flinch commands respect. The man who isn't afraid to walk away becomes magnetic. Because at the core of it all is this truth. Confidence isn't about believing you'll win. It's knowing that you'll be fine even if you don't. Machiavellian confidence, rooted in power, not performance. Niccolo Machiavelli understood power better than most. To him, power wasn't about domination. It was about leverage. Understanding human nature so well that you could bend it without force. And when it comes to women, this kind of strategic confidence is rare, but deadly. Because most men overcompensate. They reveal their desperation through their eagerness. They validate before they've earned interest. They give energy before it's reciprocated. But the Machiavellian man, he withholds. He observes. He lets her wonder. And that's where the dynamic flips. You no longer need to chase attraction. You create it by being unmoved. The power of emotional indifference. Here's a truth that sounds cold, but cuts deep. The man who is least emotionally affected holds the most power. This doesn't mean being numb. It means being grounded. It means she can test you, flirt with you, ignore you, and you remain centered. You don't break your frame. You don't beg for approval. You don't apologize for your presence. You simply are. Machiavelli taught that those who govern themselves first become ungovernable by others. In dating, this principle becomes gold, because once a woman senses that her beauty, her attention, or her silence doesn't rattle you, you move from ordinary to unforgettable, becoming the man who walks away. The strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. He's the one who can walk away without flinching. Why? Because he's not trying to win. He's not attached to an outcome. He's whole before the interaction even begins. That kind of presence is rare, and it hits different. And women feel it immediately. It's not arrogance, it's not cruelty, it's sovereignty. You don't ask, will she like me? You silently state, I know who I am. And that silent certainty, that's what confidence really is. Let's talk about one of the most underrated forces in attraction: mystery. Not playing games, not pretending to be someone you're not, but maintaining a level of unpredictability, a refusal to be fully known, fully claimed, or fully read. Because here's the brutal truth: what is predictable becomes invisible, and what's invisible loses value. Most men, in their eagerness to be liked, overshare. They express too much too soon. They hand over their entire personality on a silver platter, and then wonder why she loses interest. But the Machiavellian man, he understands the art of withholding. He gives just enough to spark curiosity, and then pulls back. He creates space for her mind to wander, to guess, to chase, and in doing so, he becomes psychologically unreachable. The power of controlled availability. Machiavelli once said, men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. In dating, this means one thing: Your presence should feel like a privilege, never a guarantee. You don't make yourself constantly available. You don't respond instantly. You don't center your life around her attention. Why? Because when you make yourself too accessible, you kill anticipation. And anticipation is where most of attraction lives. Controlled availability isn't manipulation. It's respect for your time. It's reminding her, without saying a word, that you are a man with a mission, not a man begging for attention. The fear of losing her kills your power. Most men live in quiet terror of rejection. They walk on eggshells, trying not to mess it up. They filter every word through a mental checklist of what might offend her. And in doing so, they lose the very thing that made them attractive in the first place. Authenticity. Machiavelli understood that fear makes men weak. When your actions are driven by fear of loss, you compromise yourself. You suppress truth. You play a character. But the confident man accepts risk. He knows that not every woman will want him, and he's fine with that. This calm detachment radiates confidence. It creates the impression that your approval is harder to earn, and therefore more valuable. Let her earn you. This flips the entire dynamic, because most men operate with this belief. If I can prove I'm good enough, she'll choose me. But the Machiavellian mindset is different. It says, if she wants access to me, let her prove she's earned it. You are the prize, not in a cheesy alpha male sense, but in the quiet certainty that your life has meaning, with or without her validation. You don't prove your worth. You demonstrate it by the way you carry yourself, by the way you speak, by the way you walk away from anything that feels forced. This flips the script. Suddenly, she's not evaluating you. She's trying to figure out how she can fit into your world. Silence is power. Silence is underrated in the world of dating. Most men talk too much to fill space. They try to impress with words, but every extra sentence becomes an audition. The man who embraces silence, who listens more than he speaks, who pauses before responding, creates an energy most women aren't used to. It feels powerful, masculine, controlled. Why? Because silence reveals comfort in oneself. It's the absence of nervous energy, the refusal to perform. And that presence, that inner stillness, it's unforgettable. If you want to know what truly separates the men women remember from the ones they forget, it's not muscles, it's not money, it's not even charisma. It's emotional control, the ability to feel something, but not let it hijack your behavior, the ability to be triggered and still respond with clarity, the ability to be challenged and stay unfazed. Why does this matter so much? Because most men are emotionally volatile. They fall apart when they're ignored. They lash out when they're criticized. They panic when they feel rejected. But a man with Machiavellian poise, he watches, he waits, he chooses his reaction, never gives it away. And this self-mastery, that's the real power women feel but can't explain. Discipline is desire under control. Confidence isn't just about posture and tone. It's about how you live. If you say you'll hit the gym and you do, that's confidence. If you decide not to text her for a few days and actually follow through, that's confidence. If you can delay gratification, walk away from temptation, and keep your mission first, that's the confidence that's felt even when you're silent. Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't about surface impressions. He understood that power comes from consistency, from proving to yourself that your word is law. And when you become a man who keeps his own word, you no longer need approval. You already respect yourself. Everyone else is just catching up. Delay the reward, amplify the pull. In a world of instant gratification, the man who can wait becomes rare. He's the one who doesn't rush to kiss her. He doesn't rush to sleep with her. He doesn't rush to confess feelings. He lets the tension build. He controls the pace. And by doing so, he becomes unforgettable. Why? Because he understands this truth. The more you delay the reward, the more value it gains. He becomes the man she thinks about later, the one she can't quite figure out, the one who didn't try to win her, and somehow did. Stop explaining yourself. Confidence doesn't explain, yet most men over-explain everything. I said that because I just meant that. I didn't want you to think. All of it stems from insecurity, from trying to manage perception instead of owning reality. Machiavellian men know the more you explain, the weaker you appear. Real confidence is calm. It doesn't justify. It doesn't seek validation. It just is. So the next time you're tempted to over-clarify, ask yourself, am I explaining? Or am I asking for permission to exist? Then stop, breathe, and hold your ground. Respect is better than being liked. If you chase being liked, you will always betray yourself. You'll suppress your truth, soften your tone, and shrink your standards. But if you choose to be respected, you'll draw a different kind of woman. One who values strength over softness. One who's not looking for a puppet, but a pillar. Machiavelli would say, "It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." Now, this doesn't mean cruelty. It means boundaries. It means knowing your limits and enforcing them. It means being willing to walk away when others cross the line. Because once you're respected, affection becomes a bonus, not a survival need. Let's talk about the one thing that creates deep, unconscious desire: stillness. Not passive inaction, but a kind of presence so grounded it feels immovable. You enter a room and people feel it. You speak slowly and it carries weight. You don't fidget, explain, or perform. You just exist, unrattled, rooted. And that energy? It's not common, it's not loud, but it's unforgettable. Most men are frantic with energy, constantly checking phones, scanning rooms, trying to fill silence with nervous words. But the man who is still, he commands the space without raising his voice. She can feel if you're full or empty. A woman doesn't fall for what you say. She falls for what she feels when you say nothing. And what she senses most is whether you're full or hungry inside. A man who is full doesn't chase. He doesn't validate. He doesn't need her attention to feel like he matters, because he's already anchored in something deeper: his values, his mission, his sense of self. But the man who is emotionally empty, he grasps. He tries. He gives too much too soon. She can't always articulate it, but she knows a difference. And when she senses that you're whole with or without her, suddenly, you become a challenge, a mystery, a force. Don't try to be impressive. Be certain. Here's a hard truth. Trying to impress someone is the quickest way to become forgettable, because it's rooted in one thing: doubt. The more you try to show her how funny, successful, or deep you are, the more she senses you're unsure about it yourself. But a man who is certain doesn't advertise. He's not trying to convince. He already knows who he is. He doesn't try to make people feel anything about him. He simply lets them notice. And that quiet certainty, that's more powerful than any pickup line, flex, or clever story. Energy is everything. Women are highly attuned to energy, not logic, not facts, not even appearance. Energy. They feel the difference between a man who is centered and one who's secretly anxious behind his smile. That's why you can say the exact same words, but they hit differently depending on who's speaking. One man sounds needy, the other, magnetic. What's the difference? Where the energy comes from. So if you want to attract on a level beyond words, get your energy right. Ground yourself. Stop rushing. Stop seeking. Just be there. That's the energy that turns heads without trying. Let her experience you, not understand you. This is the final shift. Most men try to make women understand them. They talk about their goals, their intentions, their pain. They over-explain their views, hoping it will build connection. But what women truly crave is the man they can't quite figure out. She doesn't want a Wikipedia page. She wants a feeling, a charge, a spark. She wants the experience of being in your presence without needing a map to decode it. Let her feel you. Let her wonder. Let her come closer, not because you asked, but because she can't help it. Machiavelli knew that the unknown commands attention. The moment you reveal too much, you lose your edge. So stay sharp, stay composed, and let your mystery work in silence. This is the paradox most men never understand. The more you need her, the less she desires you. But the moment you stop needing her, she starts chasing you. Now this isn't a trick. It's not about pretending to be distant or playing games. It's about truth. Do you actually feel complete without her? Because if your confidence, peace, or sense of identity collapses when she leaves, you were never solid to begin with. Machiavelli knew that power comes from self-sufficiency. Not isolation, but the internal security that says, I want her, but I don't need her. That's the energy women crave. The man who could walk away, but chooses to stay. And when she feels chosen, not possessed, that's when desire reaches its peak. Live like a man with options, even if you don't have any yet. One of the deepest sources of confidence is abundance. But abundance isn't always about reality. It's about posture, the way you move, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself as if your life is already full. When you act like a man with options, you send a clear message. I'm not auditioning for your attention. You're welcome to be part of this or not. And ironically, this energy attracts more options. Women don't want to fix you. They want to be invited into the world of a man who is already building something. That's the man who doesn't beg for affection. He lets it arrive. Presence over performance. Here's another shift most men never make. They perform around women, cracking jokes, showing off, bragging, over-talking. But all of that noise comes from insecurity. True masculine energy doesn't perform. It grounds. It shows up, listens, observes, and speaks with purpose. That's what makes a man unforgettable. Not how loud he is, but how present he is. He's not lost in his thoughts, not worried about how she feels, not planning the next move. He's there. And in a world full of distracted boys trying to impress, presence hits like a thunderclap. Command attention by needing none. Machiavelli understood that power flows to those who act like they already have it. So if you want to command attention, stop chasing it. Stop trying to be seen. Stop needing her approval. Stop hoping to be chosen. Be so immersed in your own life, your own path, your own standards. That attention becomes a side effect, not a strategy. This is the energy that makes you dangerous in the best way possible. Not because you're cold, not because you're manipulative, but because you are emotionally free. You want connection, but you're not owned by it. Final transformation, becoming untouchable. Let's be clear. You don't become this man overnight. It's a process, a daily rewiring of your instincts, a conscious commitment to truth over approval. But once you get it, once you live it, everything changes. You no longer fear rejection. You no longer chase validation. You no longer lose yourself in the presence of a beautiful woman. You stand in your power. You set the tone. You become the man who could walk away, but doesn't need to. And that man, he is remembered, respected, desired. Because in a world of men trying to be chosen, he's the one who chooses himself first, and that is what makes him dangerously confident.